So for the Central Berkshire Regional School District School Committee, please note that this meeting is
Recording in progress.
audio and video recorded. Motions shown are examples. These may be omitted or amended. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Jeffries. Charlotte Green.
Here.
Dr. Eberwein. Todd Emerson.
Here.
Mr. Farella.
Here.
Ellen Ledazori.
Here.
Elizabeth Lounsbury.
Here.
John Mason.
Here.
Stephen Morantz.
Here.
Elizabeth Oakes.
Here. Here.
Yep, thank you. Robert Ronzio. Mr. Stewart.
Here.
Sarah Tucker.
Here.
Kimberly Weatherall.
Yes.
Rich Peters.
Here. We have a quorum. So first up is any response from the audience? Joe Sturgis. Oh, okay, Joe. Welcome.
So my name is Joe Sturgis, for anyone who doesn't know me, which I think is all of you at this point. I'm the technology director for the district. First, I want to thank you for supporting the bulk of the district's technology budget in this tentative budget that we have before us tonight. Understandably, some sacrifices had to be made, and I totally understand that, and I acknowledge it's a very tough budgeting year, not only for the district, but for all of our member towns. I'm talking to you now to reassure you that what remains in our budget will be spent very wisely on truly critical needs. For example, hardware might be the thing that sticks out the most because previously we've been able to absorb that through sources like rural aid, and it's kind of a new addition to the operating lines. We get a lot of life out of our equipment. Out of respect for time, I'm not going to go through line by line everything that hardware budget will cover for this upcoming year, but I did want to illustrate some examples of the things that we'll be able to replace with what's in this tentative budget. For example, we are currently running desktops for support staff that are right around the 13-year-old mark, and we will be able to replace those with this funding. That's right around double what the typical lifespan of a desktop computer is, and they've been awesome devices. We've had no real problems with them, but it's kind of the end of the road for them. I can't get security patches for those devices as of January 2027, which obviously in today's technology climate is kind of a non-starter. Additionally, we would be able to replace 7 to 8+ year old iPads for our students with the highest needs. One of those needs would be augmentative and alternative communication. So for many students, this is the way they communicate. Those devices will no longer support the apps that facilitate those and other accommodations very soon. If you move on to staffing, we spend about $141 per student in IT salaries. Out of curiosity, I compared that to the county. We're actually the second lowest. Only Pittsfield is lower than us. And the average for the county, assuming I didn't miss any districts or misread any budgets, is about 60% higher than what we spend. So I think we get a pretty good bang for the buck there. If you look elsewhere in the 413 area code, there is one very similar district to us that had a proposed FY26 IT salary line of $550,000 versus our $215,000. And to compound that, even with that relatively low spending on personnel, we're able to keep most work in-house, and we outsource very little. We'll install cameras, projectors, and so on. We really only outsource if there's something that we just don't have the internal expertise or tools to handle. Moving on to software, that's a very significant portion of the budget. It accounts for pretty close to $250,000, I think, at this point. Mike, Aaron, Greg, and I have been meeting and going through that budget literally line by line. For every single software item that we have to purchase, we are making a strong justification to whether we need to keep it or look at alternatives or drop it entirely. We have some situations where we see something and we say, okay, we need that, but the cost seems high. So there are some areas where we see potential for savings, and it might make it into the final budget. I'm not sure if any of it has hit this one yet, Greg. One example of that is our student filtering software and classroom management software. That's a fairly costly product, and we found that it's a rare win-win situation where we can get a better product for less money. Another one is library management software. We're looking at open source alternatives to that. Our librarian at the high school is very familiar with one from his time working in Dalton, and he's working alongside our data specialist to try to figure out if that's a good fit or not. Like I said, I'm not going to go through line by line software things that we're looking at out of respect for your time, but I did want to illustrate that we're trying very hard to find savings anywhere we possibly can. Again, I appreciate your recognition of the importance for what's covered in this tentative budget, and thank you for your support.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate everything you're doing, bud. Okay, next up is Student Affairs. Sophie, you're online. You're up.
Yes. Hello, everybody. So starting off on February 3rd, Wacona's National Honor Society, we had our first school-wide community event called Empty Bowls, which is basically used to address food insecurity within the community and with those within the school. And all proceeds that are given back to us are given back to local food pantries in the area. Today, actually, Wacona's mixed choir, we have gone around and done Valentine's Day serenades, and it was really such a fun day to see everybody smiling and also see everybody's red faces of how embarrassed they were that their friends were sending them serenades. Wacona's next concert is on March 11th at 7 p.m. in the auditorium. It's completely free, anybody can come. And then the Alsmaan musical is set for March 27th at 7 p.m. and March 28th at 1 p.m. and 7 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Sophie? All right, thank you, Sophie.
Thank you.
All right, next up, financial reports. We had warrants that were previously approved, and then gifts and donations and grants. First one is authorization of scholarship donations.
Be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee accepts the following donations totaling $1,500 as recommended by the district treasurer. $1,000 from Danae Manns for the Fran X. Mann Scholarship, and $500 from William Carey for the Dr. William and Patricia Carey Memorial Scholarship.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Charlotte Crane,
Yes.
Todd Emerson,
Yes.
Mr. Farella,
Yes.
Ellen Ladazori,
Yes.
Elizabeth Lounsbury,
Yes.
John Mason,
Yes.
Stephen Morantz,
Yes.
Elizabeth Oakes,
Yes.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes.
Sarah Tucker,
Yes.
Kimberly Weatherall,
Yes.
Rich Peters.
Yes, motion carries. Next up, acceptance of donation from Roy Arnold to Becket, Washington Elementary School.
Be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee accepts the $50 donation from Roy Arnold to Becket, Washington Elementary School as recommended by the district treasurer.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions on this one? Seeing no. Roll call vote, please.
Charlotte Crane,
Yes.
Todd Emerson,
Yes.
Mr. Farella,
Yes.
Ellen Ladazori,
Yes.
Elizabeth Lounsbury,
Yes.
John Mason,
Yes.
Stephen Morantz,
Yes.
Elizabeth Oakes,
Yes.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes.
Sarah Tucker,
Yes.
Kimberly Weatherall,
Yes.
Rich Peters.
Yes, motion carries. Next up, approval of WRHS Chorus Valentine's Day Serenade Fundraiser.
Be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee approves a Valentine's Day Serenade fundraiser for the Wacona Regional High School Chorus.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions on this one?
Isn't this the one that we just were informed about by Sophie? That's already going on? Okay. Not sure how that works, but we're approving it now.
It was a late edition.
Yes. Any other comments, questions? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Charlotte Crane,
Yes.
Todd Emerson,
Yes.
Mr. Farella,
Yes.
Ellen Ladazori,
Yes.
Elizabeth Lounsbury,
Yes.
John Mason,
Yes.
Stephen Morantz,
Yes.
Elizabeth Oakes,
Yes.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes.
Sarah Tucker,
Yes.
Kimberly Weatherall,
Yes.
Rich Peters.
Yes, motion carries. Next up is approval of the WRHS Student Council Valentine Carnation fundraiser.
Be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee approves a Valentine Carnation Sale fundraiser for the Wacona Regional High School Student Council.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions on this one?
Just to put in the comment that this is also probably already purchased for,
For tomorrow. Oh, yes.
but they've already purchased the carnations, I assume, and they're already in the process of doing it if we were to theoretically vote it down.
Okay. Any other comments? Roll call vote, please.
Charlotte Crane,
Yes.
Todd Emerson,
Yes.
Mr. Farella,
Yes.
Ellen Ledazori,
Yes.
Elizabeth Lounsbury,
Yes.
John Mason,
Yes.
Stephen Morantz,
Yes.
Elizabeth Oaks,
Yes.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes.
Sarah Tucker,
Yes.
Kimberly Weatherall,
Yes.
Rich Peters.
Motion carries. Yes, I'm a yes. Okay, can I get a motion to approval of minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Motion or second. Any questions or issues with the minutes? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Charlotte Crane,
Yes.
Todd Emerson,
Yes.
Mr. Farella,
Yes.
Ellen Ledazori,
Yes.
Elizabeth Lounsbury,
Yes.
John Mason,
Yes.
Stephen Morantz,
Yes.
Elizabeth Oaks,
Yes.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes.
Sarah Tucker,
Yes.
Kimberly Weatherall,
Yes.
Rich Peters.
Yes, motion carries. All right, next up is superintendent's report.
Okay. Let's see. You know, the majority of our work right now is focused on the budget, and I just wanted to report out on how some of our community meetings have been going with our stakeholders. They've looked a little bit different in each town, depending on you know, what works for the town. We've met with finance committees, with select boards, select board and finance committee, and had a community forum type event in Washington. I want to thank Greg and Aaron for taking a lot of time to be out on the road in the last couple weeks to make sure that we are out talking openly with our community members, and also Paul, who has been by our side through all of them. David Stewart showed up to be at our side at the Hinsdale meeting. Liz Oaks was there supporting in Washington, and Jake Eberwine was also at the Dalton meeting. So it was a nice showing to have school committee and district administrators talking about a really hard budget year openly with the community members. I'll say that in all three communities so far, the conversations have been, they've been good conversations. They've been hard at sometimes, but the overall tenor has been one of collaboration, and we've heard in each case that people are appreciative that we're out talking with them about the budget. At Washington, we had about 35 people show up to the meeting, which, you know, for a town the size of Washington, that's a pretty good showing. Yeah, right. And so we're just happy with that, and we're looking to continue that. And as we've been talking and hearing some feedback, how we can structure those in a way that might reduce the need for us to go to every finance meeting in each town and maybe do some collaboration. We're actually meeting next week with the group of town administrators. They're to discuss our budget. Next week, they've invited us to come to a discussion, and they've invited Paul and Rich to join us as well next week, and so that'll be good. We also have another community outreach. We're going to be at Windsor Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. to talk with Windsor. We've reached out to our other towns, and we're either arranging or with Cummington's actually asked for us to come in later in March, and so we'll make the trip to Cummington in March and get out to Peru as well. So it's I feel good about that, and I thank the committee for the finance committee for allowing us to talk about our tentative budget with communities before it was actually recommended to the school committee. With the cadence of our meeting schedule, it would have been difficult for us to do that work between tonight and when our initial budget or when our final budget comes up, and so I just appreciate that to kind of fit in to what we've been doing this year with ongoing community outreach. So thank you, and I feel like it's been productive. The other thing I just wanted to mention is I've been spending a large part of my time since July on my entry plan, which I've presented at a couple of different points throughout the year. It's really been about me learning about the district and taking on this perspective of superintendent as learner and learning about our schools, our people, our communities, and all of my findings looking at all of our data, there's been a lot of pieces to it. I'll have compiled in a report. This is part of my NISIP mentoring, but it's just good practice for superintendents coming in and entering a district. And so that report I'll have ready for you in March, and I plan on sending that out to the whole community in late March, and then presenting to you on those findings. That will directly influence the strategic planning for the future, right? And so basically it will include the strengths and areas for growth for our district. It includes a lot of voices and a lot of data to support the findings, and then we'll use that to vision towards the future. And it's a hefty document. I will send the full thing out to the committee, and I'll also send out a digested version of about 2 pages that'll break it down. But I would urge everyone to take a look at that as it comes out, but I'll also couple that with a presentation. So that's forthcoming. And then the other piece I wanted just to mention, that we have a Richmond Day scheduled for over break that's been arranged by Wendy Preventure and some of our administrators, and also it is supported through some grant funding. We have Mad Science coming from Springfield to work on a polymer station. We have a petting zoo and some arts and crafts all coming to Becket, Washington on Tuesday, February 17th from 1 to 3. All ages are invited. We also have some of our community resources and community partners who will be there to engage with families. And so that'll be at Becket, Washington, Tuesday, February 17th, and that's been advertised out. But we're excited for it, and thank Wendy Preventure for really taking the lead on that and making it come to light. And I think
Jake, for one's online, just do another version.
Jake's joined us. Okay. Did you want to update anything about Magic School AI?
I'll do that very, very briefly, because I know everyone's really here for the budget talk. In our journey to discover exactly how AI might impact education, one of the things that the AI ad hoc committee has been doing is taking a look at platforms out there that may be of use to us, either on the teacher side, the student side, or both. There is one platform out there called Magic School AI, and for the school committee members, I did hyperlink their website if you were to click on that in digital form. It's a tool that is AI-based, but there's a lot of guardrails that are built into it. One of the things that we found that we liked about it is the fact that they've very much based a lot of their platform off of the Mass DESE AI guidance, as well as AI guidance from other states that are being put together. They're all pretty similar. So right now we're running a trial. The Magic School folks have given us a 30-day trial. There's about 40 teachers, K through 12, that are trialing it right now. We had a training at the beginning of the month, and we're going to do a pretty significant survey at the end of the month after they've had a chance to use it. And quite frankly, we're kicking the tires on it to see if that platform or something like it is actually useful. Does it live up to the hype, that sort of thing. I think one thing that folks need to know about this particular tool, it's referred to as grounded AI versus something like ChatGPT, which is open source. There are a lot of restrictions that are built into it in terms for safety and privacy reasons. We do have a data privacy agreement with them as well. So we'll be able to report out on the findings of that based on the 40 staff members that are using it by the start of next month.
Any questions?
Okay. The second thing on here is a recommendation for school choice openings. My actual recommendation for today is going to be to move school choice, the recommendation to the finance subcommittee for review, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Traditionally, school choice recommendations have been on the agenda in January or early February before our budget is actually finalized. And our school choice recommendations, really we shouldn't be able to make those until we have our budget decisions. And we're set, I don't want to set us up for having school choice limits or openings that we don't really have because of a finalized budget. I've taken a really close look at our school choice data. I've looked at it by every town, every school, every classroom, and I have that compiled, and it would frankly just be too dense for us to look at tonight. And we have 2 upcoming meetings with finance, and so I'd like to recommend that we bring that data to the finance committee to look at, to make a recommendation of school choice openings that goes along with our budget. And the reason for that really is because now that we're using school choice revenue, school choice funds as a revenue source, and the school committee over time has really set out on a strategy of growing school choice and making that a driving revenue for us. We have to really ensure that we're doing it right, that the entry points at Central Berkshire are in the right places, and that we're doing it in a way that both funds our schools and also is fiscally responsible. So I think the conversation is best had at finance and then brought to the full school committee with the final budget, which is, because that's on March 12th, it will fall within our policy. Our school choice letters have to go out by mid-March. And so we'll be able to have those ready to go. The turnaround time can be pretty quick on that. So I would recommend that that's the course we take.
Do you need me to?
So you want to change this to a recommendation to move it to the Finance Committee?
Yes.
You get a motion you want to?
So
Yes.
be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee refer the openings for school choice for the 2026-27 school year to the Finance Subcommittee for review and recommendation.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion, questions on this? Hearing and seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Charlotte Crane,
Yes.
Dr. Eberwein,
Yes.
Todd Emerson,
Yes.
Mr. Farella,
Yes.
Ellen Latazori,
Yes.
Elizabeth Lounsbury,
Yes.
John Mason,
Yes.
Stephen Morantz,
Yes.
Elizabeth Oakes,
Yes.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes.
Sarah Tucker,
Yes.
Kimberly Weatherall,
Yes.
Rich Peters.
Yes, motion carries. Is that it for?
That is it for me, thank you.
Okay, so next up is the communications, my report. The only thing I have is last Thursday, I was invited to the Western Mass Regional Student Advisory Council Stakeholder Engagement event. That's a mouthful, but it's done by student leaders around the state, actually. It's supported by DESE. And we had 2 student leaders that brought us there, and the names are out of my head right at the moment.
Ryan Faulkner.
Peyton and
Ryan.
Ryan Felton, yeah, sorry. And the 2 of them were, well, Ryan was at the event, and what it was it was a roundtable event where 3 different topics, they were trying to get input from stakeholders and from students and kind of have a discussion around what the students' needs are with respect to bullying, emotional needs, and also nutrition, which I thought was interesting that it had it on there. But anyways, it was a really well-attended event by people from all over Western Massachusetts, and our students did us a really good service there. So just wanted to give a shout out to them. And that's all I have. Next up is the reports. First up is curriculum.
Good evening, everybody. Curriculum met on February 4th. Our first topic of discussion was winter benchmarking, so we have MCAS in the spring. We do fall benchmarking just to see where all of our incoming students, especially kindergarten and coming students returning, how much if there was any learning loss or how much retention they've had. And then we do winter benchmarking to get a feel for how our interventions are working, and to see how our students are digesting the curricula as the year goes on, see where other helps may need to be put in place to make sure that our students are where they need to be by the end of the school year. We use Amplify and iReady as the two platforms for our benchmarking. For ELA, grades kindergarten through 8th, all grades were at least 50% meets or exceeds where they need to be at that point in the year, which is great. And lots of kids are making significant progress. For math, there were significant reductions in almost all grades of kids being less than 2 grade levels behind. So most kids, if they are behind in their math levels, they're just 1 year behind, which I know still sounds, it's not fabulous, but it's better than being 2 or more years behind in their math knowledge. Let's see, there is 8th grade, however, was there was significant progress made in the 8th grade, and it shows that our interventions are working because more kids are falling into the meets or exceeds bucket, but we did see a few students slip into the 2 or more grade levels behind. So they're going to be taking a deep dive into that, because luckily with our programming we can actually pinpoint which students are having problems with what and target our interventions to that. And then Wacona is going to actually be starting benchmarking in March for 9th and 10th grades. Does anybody have, let's see, snapshot of 7th, so that's all I really have on the benchmarking. Anybody have any questions? Comments? No? Okay. Then we went over a little bit of the ELA pilot, got an update on, so the feedback on StudySync, which is what the Curriculum Council had decided to go with, was that pros, teachers like the scaffolding and supports built into the curriculum that help all levels of learners succeed. There's a multimedia component, which is great, and there are diverse choices in thematic content. So teachers can really select books that they feel they want to teach, instead of just being handed a set curricula of these are the books you're teaching, even if you don't have a connection with them or not. Cons, the tech platform is clunky, and it uses a lot of excerpts instead of full novels, so the teachers said that, and the students said it made the content feel dry. And then version control, which means, so there's no control over which versions you use, and you don't really get to know when the updates happen, so pages are off from what the teachers are teaching to what's actually in the curricula. So the Curriculum Council has decided to do a 3-year phased-in rollout of StudySync so that they can take the time to shift the teacher mindset from a structured curriculum to a structured curriculum from a teacher-created curriculum, and not overwhelm the teachers with changing this platform. Erin is meeting with the ELA department at the end of February to help plan out what units will be used and when will be used, and when in which grades they will be rolled out. Let's see. There's also a chance that we will be able to create our own sort of community of practice like we have with Wit, that the state is running with Wit and Wisdom, but do it on our own with some other districts that are also starting to implement StudySync so that we can see where we're at and develop a best practice. Any questions on that? Okay. And then the last thing we went over was just Wacona's program of studies, which is basically what courses they're going to provide next year for the students. Changes coming for next year is turning yearbook into a half-year class, which will be great because it'll give kids a chance to understand media and marketing in media, and sort of like running it like almost like a magazine, and seeing what types of opportunities are in that career path. And then half a year, health will become a 1.5 year class for grade 9 instead of just embedding it in the physical wellness for a quarter. And this gives a better chance for students to talk, for the teacher to talk to kids about how to succeed in high school and to better prepare them with some social and emotional learning. Any? Okay. So our next school committee, our next curriculum committee meeting will be on March 24th at 7 p.m. on Zoom, where we will be talking about AI expectations at Central Berkshire and going over the school calendar for the 2026-2027 school year.
Thanks. Thanks, Al. All right, next up is finance.
Good evening, everybody. The Finance Committee has met twice since our last meeting, on January 29th and February 3rd. On the 29th, we met with Superintendent Gretchen Morse-Dews from Worthington, who asked us to consider submitting a tuition agreement to them. Their current tuition agreement expires soon, and they are anticipating a significant rate increase. Really sounded like it was part of their due diligence process to reach out to all the surrounding districts around them to sort of solicit these agreements. If we were to do something like this, it would be to reserve 40 school choice positions. It's a pretty significant amount, so it's a broader discussion that we'd have to have, because what if only 20 show up and we miss out on potential revenue there. But we have until early fall, I believe, to submit that, if we so choose. And then we spent the rest of the time talking about budgets.
All right. Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to pull this up. All right, so we're here tonight to present the tentative budget that was recommended by the Finance Committee. It's a big jump from the 9.9% that we were at the initial, and we've landed at a place now that we know our revenues and some of where our insurances have landed, and we've looked at some of our internal systems a little bit closer. So the budget that we're about to present is what we've been talking with towns about over the last week, and it represents a 4.9% increase over last year's budget, which has come down from the 9.9% increase that we had presented with the initial. And we're going to talk a little bit about the revenue sources. We're going to talk a little bit about rural aid, and we're going to talk a lot about what we've removed from the budget to get from that original 9.9 to 4.9, and some paths forward from here.
So the first thing we were going to start with was our Chapter 70 aid, and how that's tied to our local contributions. So a couple things have happened this year. If you look at the chart on the left, the state aid has, for the first time, or not the first time, but we see a reduction statewide of the amount that's allocated to state aid. The other thing that's happening with Central Berkshire is what the state is saying through their calculation, what Central Berkshire needs in state aid is less than we received last year. So they're not going to cut our state aid to what it should be, but they're going to now put us in a category called held harmless, where we'll see a per pupil increase for this year. So we're seeing a $75 per pupil for the number of pupils in our foundation enrollment for this year. So in past years, we've been seeing state aid, or the Chapter 70 line of revenue in our budget going up 4%, 3%. We're seeing a 1.3% increase this year. Did you want to say?
I wanted to say that the driver, the main driver of the reduction in Chapter 70, is really the loss of enrollment in Massachusetts schools in general. Massachusetts has lost about 15,000 students across the state. So the actual bucket of Chapter 70 money was less than what it was. And so that gap in the increase, which is one of the smallest increases we've seen since before the SOA funding came about, is really being felt by public schools across Massachusetts, but especially rural schools. And yeah, as you can see in the graph that Greg put together, that gap between required contributions by the towns and what we're receiving in state aid is getting much bigger. It's smaller every year, and it's really widened this year.
So the other piece of that for Central Berkshire is our foundation enrollment. That is one of the driving factors, like Mike said, in the state, what we see in state aid. As you can see, the foundation enrollment for Central Berkshire, this is all 7 towns, has decreased pretty rapidly since 2020. So we had 1,600 students in 2020. We have 1,439 for FY27's foundation enrollment. So foundation enrollment is not just the students that attend Central Berkshire that live in our 7 towns. It's also students that attend charter schools, they attend other public schools via school choice or special education schools. But you can see on the right-hand side, all of our towns, with the exception of Hinsdale, they have less students now than they did in 2020. Hinsdale is kind of the anomaly. They have more students than they had back in 2020. So when we get to our assessment piece, and this is one of the driving factors why when you look at the assessments, we have an average for our town assessments, but they're so drastically different, and one of the driving factors is the foundation enrollment in those towns.
We wanted to give a picture of our per pupil expenditures, and this is a striking number, and I think this is a testament to how great our teachers are, our administrators, our staff, in that we're doing a really good job with fewer resources than surrounding districts. So our average per pupil spending is $19,767, which is the lowest in Berkshire County. Some districts are spending as much as $33,000 per student, and we're at $19,767. So it's you can see that over time, we've kind of been in the bottom 3 for the last 15 years, but as of 2024, which is the last year we have data, we're last place, and that's a calculation of the money that we're spending instructionally on the students that are sitting in front, that are in our district that we're teaching. So the students and we have that broken down by category as well, and just to show, some districts you can kind of see where they bounced around a little bit. They have high points, low points. We're generally on the lower or the lowest or lower end of each category. From our spending on administration, instruction, as Joe pointed out eloquently in his opening presentation, in our technology spending, pupil services, in all the buckets. So we're looking at these areas to see if there's anywhere that we're overspending compared to districts, and we haven't been able to find that.
The other piece I want to talk about a little bit is, because we've mentioned it multiple times, is our excess and deficiency. So in the past, for the last almost 10 years or more, we've had a very healthy excess and deficiency. So that is our excess revenue at the end of the year, also our unused funds. So we had multiple driving factors on how we were able to keep that. Just on the state laws, you can have at most 5%, and we were just under that 5%. One of the main driving factors is, for a number of years through Berkshire Health Group, we had premium holidays in the month of June. So when Berkshire Health Group, they have a trust, when they're having a good year and they're bringing in good revenue when they're in their trust, they made a decision not to assess the members of Berkshire Health Group their premiums for health insurance for the month of June. For a district our size, when we're budgeting for 12 months of health insurance, 1 month of premium holiday, that's almost $500,000 for us. So when you see that each year and you have to plan for it, you have to budget for it, that goes right into excess and deficiency. The other piece is that we had some revenue sources, one being interest income. We do have a good, for the past maybe 5-10 years, interest income has been very high from what we budgeted. The other piece is Chapter 71, which is the transportation reimbursement from the state. So the state has always, that was the piece when, during the budget process from the state, when they give you what you're going to receive in Chapter 71, it's usually much lower than you were receiving. That's how it was for the last 10 years. We are now budgeting closer. The state is also, they're giving you a more accurate number if it's 85%. So when we were doing our budgets in March, we were anticipating a 70% reimbursement. But that next June, when we get our second payment of Chapter 71 reimbursement, sometimes that was 90%. So at that point, the year is done, and that's excess revenue, that just feeds right into excess and deficiency. If you look at FY25 on the chart, which is the one all the way on the right, we are now at 3.6. So that is where I think we're going to be for the foreseeable future, if not less. We're budgeting closer to our revenues, and we're also budgeting closer to our, we're not going to see premium holidays, I don't think, in the foreseeable future. But when we get to the revenue slides for the budget, you're going to see this decrease in how it's affecting town assessments.
It's important for everyone to understand that that money that we had left over in E&D because of that extra income, the extra reimbursement, or the premium holidays, that was directly given back to towns. We would, so if we had, $1.5 million left at the end of the year, all but $250,000 of that was directly given back to towns through the next budget as revenue. And so as that revenue comes down, it's automatically increasing assessments to the town. Before, even if our budget was at zero, because we have less money to put into that revenue source. So that's a really, as we budget closer, it's really important to know that we're going to have less money to offset our budget in the future.
The last piece, and we've been showing this to the towns as well, is our historical budget increases. So this I've kind of broken down into different sections. So the first column is our town assessments. So just because we have an operating increase or an overall increase to our budget, that is not assessed to the towns, depending on revenue sources. So that blue column, that very first one, is what the town saw each year. That's the average. So one town may have seen higher depending on the how it fledged out that year. The next one is our operating, which is our state aid and any local revenue sources, excluding grants and revolving accounts. The all funds column is all funds, so that's our budget increase, really what it takes to run our district. The next blue column is our capital assessments, and then the overall. So you can see on years, in the all funds column, we were seeing, for instance, in FY24, a 5.6% increase to run our district, but the towns fell at 2.27. And that was due to the fact that we were using other revenue sources. It could have been ESSER at that time, it could have been rural aid. Or if you go down even further in FY22, it was a 1.4, but the towns fell a 0.4. And then the last column is that last blue column, the overall town assessment. That is what the towns felt that year. So that is the two blue columns together, so the town assessments and the capital assessments. I think it's just a nice, to see what where we've been the last 9 years.
Yeah. So this slide just tells the story of how we were able to reduce $1.8 million from the initial budget to where we're sitting today at the tentative. First, if you remember Greg's presentation a month ago, we knew that we anticipated facing a double-digit increase in our insurance insurances, and at the end of January we found out some good news that number was actually an 8.7% increase, which that was a $621,000 reduction from our initial budget. So that was some good news that was in here. Also, our charter school assessment, which is allocated by the state, landed $70,000 better than we had budgeted for in our initial. So that's some good news that we were able to adjust just based on the numbers that the state and that the Berkshire Health Group was able to negotiate for next year. Reductions that we were able to remove from the budget here. We had $330,000 budgeted for curriculum. I want to remind everybody that Central Berkshire has never had a line in the budget for curriculum. Curriculum are the materials that we use every day, the resources that teachers use to teach our students, and we've been pushing to have high quality instructional materials in front of our students. We've made a push for multi-year to ensure that K through 8 in both ELA and math that our students have really high quality evidence-based curriculum in front of them, and also that our early reading materials are evidence-based and follow the science of reading, and we're expanding that into the high school as we get now a 9th through 10th grade ELA curriculum, and as we actually landed on a science curriculum a few months ago too for the middle school. So our teachers have been putting in a lot of work adapting the curriculum itself to really best fit our students. We want to make sure that we're able to sustain that. Too often rural districts are able to start curriculum rollouts, and then because of budgets we have to roll it back. I've been being pretty loud in my advocacy around DESE helping to sustain programs. Are very good at supporting pilots and initial year rollouts, and we were well funded for that. We got a grant for about over $200,000 to help us roll out our initial rollout. But we want to ensure that we can keep that high quality curriculum going for our students because they deserve it. And to do that, we need to budget some money. So the reason why we're able to take that $270,000 out is because Senator Mark has earmarked $250,000 for us for the sustaining of our curriculum for next year. He is cautiously optimistic that the earmark will stick, and so we feel good about that. We also know that if we've looked closely at our contracts, and the contracts that would come at the end of next year, if we needed to do one-year contracts as a stopgap, we will be able to. Instead of, it would be more cost-effective for the district to have multi-year contracts. But if we needed to go with 1 year, we could. And we also have enough curriculum material to be able to move into next year okay. And if we had to pull some money from school choice in order for curriculum material, if we didn't get that earmark, we would come back to the school committee with that, and we do have that set aside. So we were comfortable, thanks to Senator Mark, to pull that from the budget. The OPEB, historically, the district has funded OPEB, which is our other post-employment benefits. Greg, do you want to speak to this a little bit?
Yeah, so that's our trust that back in 2017 the school committee decided to start. We've been funding that consistently at $400,000 each year. Last year was the first year we dropped it down to $50,000. Through the initial budget, we did, through the budget guidelines, we did say we were going to fund it at $400 again to see where that got us. Looking at the overall budget, the finance subcommittee decided that reduce it by $350 again to keep it at $50,000 was the best choice to move forward.
Thank you. We were also able to remove some proposed positions that we had after some careful thought. Two of the positions were put into the budget. We had explained based on past practice of the district having to come to finance committee or personnel late in August and say, we need a kindergarten teacher. And we've done that 2 out of the 3 years that I've been in the district. And I think part of the ask of the finance committee was like, look at that data, and if you know you're going to need a teacher, let's try to get that into the budget as early as possible. So when we did that, and we were looking at the data in January, it looked like we were going to need a 5th grade teacher at Craneville and a kindergarten teacher at Kittredge. Where the numbers are right now, we can just get away with not adding that 4th grade teacher at Kittredge and the 5th grade teacher at Craneville, knowing that we could come back in August, depending on how enrollment shakes out over the summer. We've had a lot of move-ins at Kittredge. In Hinsdale, we tend to have several families move in over the summer, which could increase that, and in Dalton as well. We were talking to Dr. Vosberg today and looking at his numbers very closely, and he's averaging about 10 student move-ins per grade level per year. So we're trying to, we're taking that out for now because at the numbers right now, we don't need it, but we could. The other 2 positions that we were able to remove, one was a ask for a special ed instructional coaching position, and that position was designed to support the implementation of a new model that we're looking to move towards for our special education for the future. Thankfully, because of the work of Mr. Liu, securing a grant at the middle school, we were able to partner with DESE in an organization called Buzz Education, who will actually be partnering with us for the next 1.5 years to focus on specifically our teaching around to students with disabilities in math. And so we're targeting math instruction, and we're hoping to scale that up throughout this process to be able to apply what we're learning to our special education in our other subjects as well. So that's some good work there, and we were able to take that out of the budget. And finally, the 4th position that we removed was the math interventionist position from Nessacus. And with some creativity and some repurposing, we're going to be able to provide math intervention next year at Nessacus without the addition of that FTE. So $330,000 and the associated insurances at $55,000 we were able to remove from the budget. We removed 3 classified positions from the budget too. Also 2 which were student support paraprofessionals that we had wanted to add in to replace a redesign of how our skills development programs will be running. We've moved some coverages around to ensure that we'll have those positions available. And the third one we added an additional kindergarten para this year to support the additional class at Kittredge, which we added in August. And as that class moves into 1st grade, we'll no longer need the paraprofessional that supports the kindergarten class. And so that position has been removed from the budget as well. Moving away from personnel into what Mr. Sturgis was talking about today, we've also reduced $35,000 in Chromebooks. And the impact of removing that $35,000 is that our K-1 students will no longer be one-to-one, will not each have an individual Chromebook. So currently, we have one-to-one Chromebooks. Every student in the district is assigned one. When we talked with finance, we've made a decision to move away from the one-to-one. We do have a plan, and what the $35,000 will or what the remaining money will allow us to do is make sure that the carts that we have in our elementary schools are sufficient to supply our K-1 students with a shared Chromebook cart. So that was a reduction of $35,000, and also with that is the reduction of one-to-one Chromebooks for elementary paraprofessionals. We currently have, our paraprofessionals have Chromebooks. We are going to move to a cart system so that any paraprofessional who needs access to a Chromebook for that particular day or that particular lesson has access to it, but they will not be assigned a one-to-one. That was a savings of $15,000. We also removed the capital projects from the budget as well. We had looked at, in the initial budget, I think we wanted to signal that we knew there were some projects that needed to happen, one being the gym floor, and at part of the gym floor at Kittredge, but really the associated problem with the pitch of the concrete slab outside of the door. And the second one was the trim at Kittredge as well, and the peeling paint on the gymnasium side of the building. And so after consideration, we're looking at alternate ways to address those problems, and we still plan to take care of them, but we removed them from the capital.
Zero-turn.
Oh, and the zero-turn mower. We have one zero-turn mower that's been in the shop quite a bit in the fall. It's been repaired several times, and it's not dead yet, but we think it's going to be soon. We hope that we're able to get the spring out of it, and we're hoping that we get some rural aid, which we'll talk about in a minute, that'll help us get that more. Did everything?
That's everything.
Okay.
So that's what we took out from going from the initial to the tentative. So we do still have some increases and decreases, looking at it from the adopted budget last year to our tentative budget, where we currently stand. So we still have 2 additions for certified staff to our budget. Both of these positions were added after the budget was approved last year in August. One being an elementary school teacher or classroom teacher at Kittredge. We have the kindergarten moving up to 1st grade. And we also have a skills development teacher that was added. Those both included going into the tentative budget. We also have the addition of our occupational therapist that is increasing them from a 0.6 to a full-time occupational therapist. And that is due to IEP needs.
And the skills development teachers as well, so
Yes.
that's something that's written into the student's IEP.
We have 4 classified paraprofessionals. These were also added this year. These were also due to IEPs, so we do need to have these additional paraprofessionals. Other than that, for the rest of our salary lines are just contractual increases for the units. So outside of salaries, we do have some fixed rates that we are looking at. So our pupil transportation, that is our busing to get our kids to school and from school. We are moving into year 5 of our contract, 5 of 5. So we are seeing a 3% increase for that. Other insurances, that includes our property insurances, which we don't have the complete figures yet, but we do have estimates that I think we can move forward on. Health and dental insurances, we did see a large drop going from initial to tentative, but we still have a large increase going from adopted to tentative. So our health insurances came in at, we were anticipating a 20, but it actually came in at 8.75. With that also, we have our dental insurances, which are seeing about a 9% increase, and then our retiree health insurances, which do not run the same timeline as our active. Our actives are July through June. Our retirees are January through December. So they did see a 16% increase this past January. We're expecting another double-digit increase next year, unfortunately. So we do have 10% aside for our retiree health insurance. Our charter school assessment that is set by the state, and it is part of the governor's budget of what to expect. We did see an increase of $50,000 year over year. We also have some special education costs that we're anticipating, with a large chunk of that being tuition for students that are in special ed tuition schools. A couple of those were actually students that moved into the district, never attended any of our schools, but they were already placed in those schools, so we need to continue their education. I will say a good chunk of that is being funded out of circuit breaker, but overall it is an increase to our budget. Other line items, we do have our Chromebook and our computer renewal. That is about $250,000. We did have that small decrease going from initial to tentative. Another piece is curriculum and instructional materials. That includes the curriculum increases for some of our grade levels, but also just line items that are increased due to needs like art classes, music classes. And then another large chunk is our building maintenance and utilities. The large chunk of that is our utilities, just expecting increases next year on electricity, gas, oil. We did see two large decreases. One is an actual expense, so our Berkshire County retirement, that is set by Berkshire County retirement. We're seeing a $182,000 decrease from year over year. And then our contingency expense line is matched to a contingency revenue line in our budget. You'll see in the next couple slides. Those are both being removed from the budget. So we're removing the contingency line and we're also removing the revenue contingency line. That was there for, the purpose it was there for was if we ever saw more state aid than we had in our budget, the understanding was that you wouldn't have to amend your budget because you had a contingency revenue line. The state is now saying, no, you have to amend your budget no matter what. So it makes no sense to keep these contingency lines that just cancel each other out. So that's how we get to our current $1.8 million increase. So with all that said, this is where we're currently sitting for revenues to get, it all funnels down to our town assessments. So I was just going to highlight a couple lines here. That top line, Chapter 70, that is our state aid. That's one we talked about earlier, where we're seeing a 1.3% increase year over year. The Transportation Revolving Fund and our excess and deficiency, the next two blue lines you see, those ones are kind of tied together. Those are, that's what we talked about earlier too. So our excess and deficiency was less than we saw the previous year, so we did see a decrease of 19% there. But also as we budget closer for our Chapter 71 reimbursement, that second line, we're going to have less money to fund into our Transportation Revolving Fund. So last year, in past years, we were upwards of 600, 500,000. Now we're at 150, and we're probably going to stay there or get even less as we move forward, as we budget closer. With that said, where those revenue sources changing so much, it all falls down to town assessments. So our town assessments are currently sitting at 12%, or just over $2 million year over year. The only thing I wanted to also talk about on this revenue slide before we move to town assessments is that revolving funds line, which you're seeing a 19% increase. There's two reasons that's such a large increase. One is circuit breaker, that is a revolving account. We had increase in expenses, we also have an increase in revenues, so they're working together. The other piece is our school choice funds. Finance subcommittee decided to use more school choice funds for this budget, so that was increased from $348,000 last year to $500,000 as we moved to FY27. So overall, that's where we're sitting with all funds at 4.96. But as we talked about earlier, that 12% for towns is an average. On the next slide, this is how it works out for each of the towns. So even though it's a 12% average, we do have our lowest in Cummington at 7.3 and our highest in Hinsdale currently at 15.1. The last piece of the puzzle for our budget is our capital. So we did have those three additional on our docket as we moved into the initial, but we did remove them. So we still have two. One is our Wacona renovation. That is the renovation of our old high school. We still have a few more years on that. And the second one is our Wacona school building, the new building, which we have quite a few years left on. The one thing I will say, there's large changes in our towns for the capital budget. That is due to the fact that there is no 5-year average for the capital assessments. It's whoever's sitting in those schools on October 1 of this year. And with both projects happening at Wacona High School, it is, you can see that all the towns are seeing a decrease with the exception of Cummington and Hinsdale. That is because those two towns are the only towns that are seeing an increase in their enrollment at Wacona this year. So their graduating classes last year had less students than their 9th grade classes this year. So, for instance, Dalton is seeing a decrease year over year of 56,000, while Hinsdale is seeing an increase of just under 50,000. But as for our capital assessments, overall it's a $15,000 decrease year over year.
You know, we've been spending a lot of time talking with towns, and we're going to continue that as we move into next week and get closer to a final budget. We know that our towns and towns around us are in tough fiscal shape as well. It's a hard budget season, and we're sympathetic to that. There are things that are beyond our control, but one thing that is, you know, within our control is to advocate for what we need, and I want to take a second to really talk about why rural aid is important for us. And the Finance Committee has some decisions to make in the next couple weeks, and there's really two levers that we can pull, right? One is reducing our operating budget, right, which we've been meeting with our principals. We've been meeting with, I mean, Joe talked about it today, right? Literally line by line, anywhere where we can find cost savings, we're doing it. We had a 3-hour meeting today with Principal Shorter and Principal Vosberg talking about possible cost savings, making sure that every shared teacher is used to capacity, looking at our scheduling, looking at options for cost savings for the district. We're working really hard on that, bringing that operating down. The only other thing we can do, because we can only bring our operating down so much. Anything we bring down further is going to have an impact on our students' education, right? Any further cut. The ones that we made already will have an impact on the future. Any impact further from now on is going to have an impact on what we're delivering right now. And we're in a place where Nessacus is a school of recognition. Grades 3 through 8 were recognized by the state for surpassing our pre-COVID ELA and mathematics scores. We're one of only 13 districts in the state that got that recognition. We are doing things right, and we're doing that with less per pupil expenditure than any district in Berkshire County. Our teachers, our staff, our administrators, our counselors, everybody that's involved with educating our children is working really hard every day with fewer resources than the districts around us. The only way we're going to close that gap in the short term is by getting more rural aid. That Chapter 70 may be opened. There's potential for Chapter 70 to benefit us. Our state representatives are not very, they're not hopeful that will happen quickly, and if it does happen, that it will benefit us, right? The only thing we can really rely on is rural aid because it's designed specifically for districts like ours. We are the #1 recipient now of rural aid in Massachusetts, and last year we received less than we anticipated. This year's budget, we're cautiously optimistic. We're hopeful based on the governor's initial budget, her commitment to funding rural aid, and it was funded at $20 million. Last year, we had anticipated it to be funded at $16 million. In the final budget, it was funded at $12 million. The reason why this is really important to us is we made a decision last year as a committee to start putting that revenue into our operating budget, right? If we don't have rural aid, we will have to cut an additional $1.2 million from this year's budget. The decision that the Finance Committee has to make is how much of the rural aid to leverage as a revenue to offset some of our town assessments, because we know those need to come down. The operating alone isn't going to do it. So that's going to be a gamble, right? And we're really talking about that, how much we're willing to gamble. But I ask everybody, I know there's people listening on the call. I've sent a letter to some members of the town of Dalton last night who were there at the meeting. I've sent it out to our parents, our caregivers, our whole community, and asked for advocacy. And we know people are, because we're hearing that there's advocacy happening. And I believe that part of the reason why it's been funded at $20 million is because people have been talking, but we need more advocacy. Because we need that to come in at $20 million. We need it to do the projects in Hinsdale. We need it to bring the town assessments down. We need it to provide some services that we're still not providing our kids, that kids in towns across the state have, and ours don't. So we need it, and I think that's I don't know if you want to add any specifics about the dollar amounts, but it's.
No, I mean, right now, so with the governor's budget being at 20 million, if the calculations remain the same, if the demographics remain similar in the other counties that, or other towns and cities that get it, we would see about 1.9. So currently in our tentative budget, we have about $1.2 million for salaries and expenses. So there is a little bit of a decision to make if we want to increase that. But if it stays at 20 million, we would expect to see about 1.9.
The gamble is, we don't know that final dollar amount until June. And our budget is due in March. And the more we leverage rural aid, the more at risk we are of having to either make cuts in the summer or going into the remaining reserves we have in our school choice, which is also why I think that school choice discussion is really important, because we're now using school choice revenue and relying on us netting money on school choice, which isn't always going to be guaranteed. So it's a difficult time for our finance department.
I would add one piece on the advocacy, is that one of the pieces that rural schools are pushing for is to codify rural aid instead of having it at risk every single year to the will of the budget. So we want to get it so it's carved into law, so it's guaranteed at some level every year. It's not guaranteed at all at any level. And that's one of the advocacies that's out there right now.
And it is moving through
Yes.
the House. It is, it's still, there's no appropriation assigned to it yet,
Right.
though, right? So, but that would be a good first step.
Again, it's why we have to all pitch in and try and advocate for our schools.
And actually, Dalton, a member of the Dalton Select Board reached out today and asked if the school committee would write a letter of advocacy and send that to the select board that they could model. So I can talk to you about that.
Yeah, sure. So do you want to go to the votes and then have discussion on each vote? Or do we want to have questions first? Why don't we do the votes in the particular pieces of the budget?
Question. Yeah, I guess
We'll do discussion first.
Discussion first.
Okay. Questions for finance, for the hearing none, seeing none?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
Just on the revenue, the earnings on investment, like, why has it gone up so much? Did you
Actually,
make
yes,
good
I
investment?
should have talked about that. I apologize. So we have seen a large, that is one of the places that we were seeing excess revenue at the end of the year. That is something I'm watching. I did have a conversation with our district treasurer about that increase. We are making about double that right now currently, but we don't know what tomorrow is going to look like for interest rates whatsoever, but we do feel comfortable increasing a little bit. That is one area I am looking as we move to the final budget, if it's too high. That's one of the few revenues that I am nervous about. I do, I'm keeping an eye on it, so.
Yeah, my question was just more around, can you just walk us through the process? What are we voting on tonight? And how much flexibility do we feel we have moving forward? Because, you know, the budget as it stands right now is not something I can support. You know, Mike, I think you said it out loud, right? We have to get the assessments down somehow. You know, we heard in the town of Dalton last night that we're sending them an over $1.1 million assessment increase, and we have $800,000 in levy capacity. So just with the school department alone, we've exceeded that. So, I mean, my math has us somewhere between $1 and $1.2 million in terms of, that's our problem. And I think, Mike, you hit it on the head. It's a combination of operations and revenue. So I guess my question, sorry, I'm commenting and I'm questioning, is just more about understanding where we're headed from here, knowing that we've got work still to do, and yeah, I'll leave it there.
I think the plan, and Paul, you can jump in on this too. This will go to Finance Committee. We have two meetings scheduled for Finance upcoming, one on the 24th.
Yes.
And one on...
We're scheduling one for the 3rd.
Tentatively for March 3rd. And Paul has requested some data to really drive those conversations. We've got all of our staffing levels by school, all of our enrollment data, quite a document put together that we'll share out with Finance Committee sometime next week to have plenty of time to review it. And I think that's the next step. The operational costs are, any cuts to operation are going to have a significant impact. We've been working with our principals on some worst case scenarios. And when we talk in finance, I think we'll be able to walk through each line item and really look at the impact it'll have on kids and operations, and that's going to land on Finance Committee to make some hard decisions there. And I think the revenue side of things is that's really our best option at taking the pressure off of the assessments. It's just at a risk, and so I think those are the conversations that we're going to have. And right now we have 2 probably long meetings ahead of us to try to grapple with that. And if we need another one, we will have to do it that Friday.
That's fair. I understand that some of my questions probably are more appropriate for the subcommittee than a full board. I guess just maybe I want to just maybe offer one other observation, and that is, if we did leverage the risk, let's say we went to the cap on what we expect early is going to be 1.9. We go right up to the top, and we don't get it. What do you see as the implications there in terms of how you're going to manage your district, having then not having the revenue necessary to run the full operation as we funded it?
Yeah, that would be really difficult, and I think that we would have to do a combination of some massive restructuring and also tap into our school choice reserves. And so I think that the looking at our school choice really carefully, understanding that the dynamic and how much school choice we want to take in, what that percentage is, and are we going to continue to grow school choice, and if we needed to use that, is the committee willing to leverage our one reserve fund towards the gamble of rural aid? If the committee is not willing to do that, then going up to 1.9 million, I wouldn't support that, right? Because then we're going to be gambling with people's jobs in August, which is not something that I would want to do. So I think it comes down to that conversation with the finance subcommittee. How much are you willing to gamble? And if we lose, are you willing to dip into school choice funds to cover that? And then I can answer that question better if I knew that answer.
Okay, thanks. And I guess one just a procedural question is, we need to vote the tentative budget forward. What happens if we don't?
Well, you would need to vote a budget forward if somebody made an amendment to the budget with different numbers, but per our regional agreement, we do need to have a tentative budget 75 days before the first town meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay.
I just want to implore everybody in the district to flood Governor Healy's email inbox with advocacy for rural aid. We can see how much money is at risk for us, which is vital services for our students. We go through these meetings, and in my subcommittee, go over with a fine-tooth comb MCAS scores, which now is benchmarking. It is not a graduation requirement, but everybody wants to know why MCAS scores are so low. What are we doing to raise them? We can see from the benchmarking data that I talked about tonight that we have interventions and we can have high-quality curriculum that we're putting in place that are increasing the amount of students in our district who are meeting or exceeding state expectations. if we have to cut staff and cut services, our students will not be getting the education they deserve, and it's almost like a catch-22, because the state is expecting us to provide these high-quality materials for our students and not giving us the funding to do that, and not recognizing that rural districts, it's so much more difficult. And for all of the discussion of equity for students and making sure everybody has what they need, if we don't get that rural aid, our students will not have that equity and will not have what they need. And that is almost hypocritical of the state to put us at risk that way.
Thanks. Dave?
Yeah, so, Jake had mentioned specific numbers for Dalton, the impact that this increase has on their ability to raise funds in one of those slides. If I'm reading that correctly, the average, 9-year average is 3.13% increase in assessments or cost to the town, if that is correct. That's a 3.13% increase when they can only raise their revenues 2.5%. Every single year, we take a larger and larger share of what towns need for their own municipalities. As we've seen, bridges are closing. We had one across from Nessacus, that one lane shut down. We have 104-year-old bridges in Becket. Becket, Washington is served by a bridge, only one bridge. As we heard in Hinsdale, one of the impacts of these budgets are they're having a harder time hiring and retaining DPW workers, the very people that we rely on to keep our roads open to send our kids to school safely. So when we raise our budgets, it has a serious and negative impact on their budgets. And I ask us, I'm trying to understand this for myself, what makes us so special that we can raise our budgets more and we prioritize it more than the towns that we live in? Nobody wants to see cuts to the schools. Everybody that I talk to in these towns supports the schools. We would give tons of money if we could. My own children would be impacted by cuts to the school. And it's great that we had, the initial budget at 10% was really not a real number. Like, it's great it came down by half. I could support this budget if it came down another half. I know there's cuts, I know it's hard, I know all of you have worked very hard on this. And I know Mike's worked hard, and Greg. We just can't keep doing this to our towns. They can't afford it. They need fire trucks, they need roads, they need highway workers. And this budget does set our students up for success, but it does not set our towns up for success. And I'm not so sure it sets our superintendent up for success. We can't pass this budget. It's too much, and I'm not going to support it. I will support we do have contractual obligations that we've already approved, the salaries and benefits and retirees, but the operating budget, I'm going to have to vote no on it. Thank you.
I think I would fundamentally disagree with one thing, that we're not setting our towns up for success, because our town success are our kids, right? And so I would just remind the school committee that we're here because we value education, right? And one of the, budgeting in and of itself is putting a dollar amount on what we value. We're in the room here because we value education. I don't think that the question that you asked about, how are we're doing this to our towns, it's not us doing something to the towns. We're providing a necessary service and doing a really good job of it. And so I feel like the narrative that school districts are doing something to towns feeds into the town versus school dynamic that is a result of a very broken Chapter 70 formula. I've said that loudly. I've looked at the formula closely. There are levers within it that set us up for a disadvantage. It's nothing that the school district is doing to the town, because we're already low, right? We're $19,000 per student. We're the lowest in the county. We don't ask towns for a lot. That got brought up at the Dalton meeting yesterday, that over time we've actually come in very low historically, despite rising costs. We've used our grant funding to offset cost. We were very smart with our ESSER money, and over time, we've kind of artificially deflated what we've brought to the towns. It is expensive to educate a student. We have 20% of our students who are on IEPs. Our outplaced, we have $2 million in our budget for students that we've never seen. They are students that go to outplacement special ed services. We have to provide them, many of them residential the services that they need, and transportation costs. That's something that's happening around the county, and our towns feel that. But it's not something we're doing to the towns. And I'm going to find a way to manage a budget that the school committee creates. We have really strong staff. They're committed to our kids. We'll find a way, but we're already pretty lean. So I don't know.
If I could just
Yeah.
respond. I don't, I'm sorry if it came across as a us versus them, or we are doing this to them. I think we can do a better job balancing our needs and the town's needs.
And I agree to that.
And that's,
Yeah.
thank you.
Sure.
I would also note that a huge increase comes from benefits, right? And healthcare, insurance, retiree benefits, and that's one of the ones that you're going to vote for. It's one of the ones that I'm going to vote for, because I'm certainly not going to say no to that. But that's completely out of our control, right? There's a huge financial problem with the cost of healthcare and other associated benefits that also needs to get fixed. But I did also have a question around high-quality instructional materials, and if we are looking at any open educational resources, obviously it'll probably be a small drop in the bucket, but as we look to adopt more HQINs, can we see if there's a way to get more of that for free?
Yes, and the science curriculum that we're moving towards is open source. And we explored open source for English at the high school as well, and we ended up with a better low-cost option, for sure. But and it may end up being that we have to use open source, high-quality curriculum materials, and that's something that we're willing to explore. But what we don't want to do is take away from the hard work that the teachers have done to do a pivot from, the curriculum that we were using prior was a different way of teaching, especially ELA, right? And so we've moved towards an evidence base, which has taken a lot of professional development, a mindset shift, and a lot of sweat equity on this.
Well with
What's that?
They've done well with
and they've done well with it, and both students and staff are doing well. And to pivot away from that anytime before the 5-year cycle goes through, it isn't really an option. And we have ways forward that if we weren't able to sustain, that we could get through short term, but for long-term planning, we need to be able to fund that. But I think open source is a great idea. Yeah.
Can I just ask one question? The salaries and benefits, those are, the number there is from the contracts that we approve as a school committee, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
I also want to ask that when everyone's writing Governor Healy about fully funding rural aid, that they also advocate for changes at the state in Mass General Law for Chapter 70, because correct me if I'm wrong, when we had the seminar last winter, the person giving the tutorial basically called it a death spiral.
Yeah.
That the way that the law is written, the way that we get Chapter 70 is going to make it impossible for us to fund education to our students at a rate that is affordable to the townspeople. If we don't get the legislators, the people in the State House whose salaries we fund, to correct that mind-numbing algorithm that somebody came up with that makes funding school districts from the state more equitable, we're just going to be back here again next year, and there is no amount of money that we can cut that is going to stop that train wreck from happening.
In that death spiral, right, as we cut services to kids, right, which, a reduction of our operating by half, let's say, would require us eliminating programs, right? And so we would talk about which ones those might be. As we eliminate programs, people who are interested in those or who rely on those start school choicing out. And so the death spiral is reducing your budget, losing services for kids, people leaving your district, further reducing our ability to pay for the students we have in front of us, which increases school choice. You can look at districts around us, it's happening. This budget cycle is severely impacting some other rural districts around us, and that death spiral is real. We are not in it right now, but really we have to be really careful about what we reduce, because this will be the first stage of entering that spiral.
Yeah.
This is a tentative budget. I think we should vote on it now. We've got 2 more finance subcommittee meetings to pick and choose what we're talking about. We have rural aid, we got school choice, but we need to have a budget proposed either by the end of today, right?
Yes, we have to vote on it.
So I think a lot of work has gone into the tentative budget. I think we just leave it as it is and see what next couple of meetings bring to. Right.
Well, we can vote on it.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
All right, be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee adopts a tentative gross salary, contractual salary increases for all employees and active employees' insurance benefits budget for the school year 2026-27 in the amount of $22,223,245 as proposed in the tentative fiscal year 2027 maintenance and operating budget document and as recommended by the Finance Subcommittee.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Charlotte Crane?
Yes.
Dr. Eberwein?
Abstain.
Todd Emerson?
Yes.
Mr. Farella?
Yes.
Ellen Ladazori?
Yes.
Elizabeth Lounsbury?
Yes.
John Mason?
Abstain.
Stephen Morantz?
Yes.
Elizabeth Oakes?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Sarah Tucker?
Yes.
Kimberly Weatherall?
Yes.
Rich Peters?
Yes, motion carries. Next up,
Tentative fiscal year 2027 retirees benefits adoption. Be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee adopts a tentative retirees health insurance benefits budget for the school year 2026-27 in the amount of $2,628,421 as proposed in the tentative fiscal year 2027 maintenance and operating budget document and is recommended by the Finance Subcommittee.
Second.
motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Charlotte Crane?
Yes.
Dr. Eberwein?
Abstain.
Todd Emerson,
Yes.
Mr. Farella,
Yes.
Ellen Latizori,
Yes.
Elizabeth Lonsberry,
Yes.
John Mason,
Yes.
Stephen Morantz,
Yes.
Elizabeth Oaks,
Yes.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes.
Sarah Tucker,
Yes.
Kimberly Weatherall,
Yes.
Rich Peters.
Yes, motion carries. Next one, please.
Tentative fiscal year 2027 operating budget adoption. Whereas by its a regional agreement, the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee must prepare a tentative budget 75 days prior to the first annual town meeting. Therefore, be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee adopts a tentative gross operating budget for the school year 2026 to 27 in the amount of $33,767,460 as proposed in the tentative fiscal year 2027 maintenance and operating budget document as recommended by the Finance Subcommittee.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions on this?
Rich, just,
Yeah.
I just want to go on record and I say the same thing I said in Finance Sub, which is, I'm voting yes because it's tentative, but this is not a budget. I would vote as a final version. I look forward to working with the subcommittee over the next couple of weeks.
Okay, any others? Roll call vote, please.
Charlotte Crane,
Yes.
Dr. Eberwein,
Yes.
Todd Emerson,
Yes.
Mr. Farella,
Yes.
Ellen Latizori,
Yes.
Elizabeth Lonsberry,
Yes.
John Mason,
Yes.
Stephen Morantz,
Yes.
Elizabeth Oaks,
Yes.
Mr. Stewart,
No.
Sarah Tucker,
Yes.
Kimberly Weatherall,
Yes.
and Rich Peters.
Yes, motion carries. Next up.
Tentative fiscal year 2027 capital budget adoption. Be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee adopts a tentative capital budget for the school year 2026 to 27 in the amount of $2,378,588 as proposed in the tentative fiscal year 2027 maintenance and operating budget document as recommended by the Finance Subcommittee.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments on this one? Questions? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Charlotte Crane,
Yes.
Dr. Eberwein,
Yes.
Todd Emerson,
Yes.
Mr. Farella,
Yes.
Ellen Latizori,
Yes.
Elizabeth Lonsberry,
Yes.
John Mason,
Yes.
Stephen Morantz,
Yes.
Elizabeth Oaks,
Yes.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes.
Sarah Tucker,
Yes.
Kimberly Weatherall,
Yes. Rich
Peters.
Yes, motion carries. Okay. The next meeting.
Our next meeting is planned for February 24th, 6:30 PM here in Nessacus, and our following one after that is March 3rd, same place and time.
Okay. All right, next up, policy.
We haven't met since our last meeting. We have our next meeting on February 18th at the central office at 6:30.
Okay. Personnel is not met. Safety and wellness.
We met on February 2nd, and we had a update from our district nurse regarding sicknesses, overall health of the school district, and it seems that we handled it pretty well as a district. Also a discussion on how to attract substitute nurses, and Greg was at the meeting, and we're going to explore some ideas to see if we can attract sub-nurses to help out. This year was kind of an outlier with some medical leaves and things like that, so they think between Mike and Greg, we could put a handle on it to help out the nurses in our school districts. Our next meeting is March 30th. We're looking at getting an update on our summer meals program that was offered last year that was such a huge success, and bullying data report as well.
All right, thank you. Okay. So nothing to report on the Wacona building or the regional ad hoc. Still waiting on the state to approve the regional agreement there, and also on the Wacona building project. Both of those we're waiting on the state. So superintendent evaluation ad hoc. I don't think
Has not met. since
has not
last-
met. Yeah. Okay. All right. Is there any old business? Any new business? Remarks for the good of the committee? Yes.
I want to congratulate Charlotte being 40 under 40, being recognized. Congratulations.
party, right?
I am.
All right, can a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say,
Oh, sorry.
as we start moving into winter sports postseason, good luck to all of our teams and students still competing.
Good.
And
Sure.
Nordic took states?
Second place.
Second place.
Second place, okay.
And hockey did some success.
All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Motion and second. Roll call vote, please.
Charlotte Crane.
yes.
Dr. Eberwein.
Yes.
Todd Emerson.
Yes.
Mr. Frella.
Yes.
Ellen Ladazori.
Yes.
Elizabeth Lonsberry.
Yes.
John Mason.
Yes.
Steve Morantz.
Yes.
Elizabeth Oaks.
Yes.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes.
Sarah Tucker.
Yes.
Kimberly Weatherall.
Yes.
Rich Peters.
Yes, we need you. Thank you.